What's up everybody, my name is Vando and you're watching Deadlock School, a channel dedicated to helping you master the game of Deadlock. Deadlock is Valve's new occult-themed third-person shooter that combines MOBA-style mechanics with hero shooter gameplay, kind of like if Overwatch and Dota had a baby. As of the filming of this video, you currently need an invitation to join the free-to-play alpha test, but don't worry, it's not too hard to come by an invitation. Anyone in your Steam friend list that is already in the alpha can send you an invite, and you can also try the Deadlock subreddit sticky thread to ask around for somebody to friend list you and send an invitation your way. This video is designed with new players in mind, so if you're interested but have never played Deadlock, or maybe you've tried a game or two and felt completely overwhelmed, then hopefully you can learn enough by watching to at least get a foundational understanding of how to play the game. I'm going to break the game down into 5 hopefully easily digestible steps that can help catch you up to speed fast. The first thing you'll do in Deadlock is pick a hero. Click Heroes to see a list of all the available heroes. A handful of the hero cards will have a green thumbs up in the corner of their portrait that means they're recommended for new players, which makes them a great place to get started. You can learn more about each hero by clicking on their portrait. Deadlock heroes have 4 skills bound to keys 1, 2, 3, and 4 by default. Hover over each icon for a description. If you look at the bottom of the skill card, you'll see that each hero skill can be upgraded 3 times. Unlike traditional hero shooters, you don't start with access to all of your skills in Deadlock. Each skill has to be unlocked one at a time as you progress through the game. You can pick one of the first 3 available skills at the beginning of a match, but you won't be able to unlock your ultimate skill until a bit later into the game. Your hero's base weapon and vitality stats are listed on the right. Make sure you take a look at their ammo capacity, base health, and move speed. All of these stats can be upgraded as the game progresses. Deadlock has a pretty interesting system for selecting heroes. When you start a match, you'll have to select 3 heroes that you can play. Click on a portrait to select a hero until you have 3 selected. Then you can right-click each portrait to set priority. The purple star gives you the highest priority and the best chance of playing a specific hero. I recommend starting out with Hayes, McGinnis, and Seven. All 3 of these heroes have a pretty straightforward game plan, and none of their abilities are very complicated, which makes them great starter heroes. After a few games, I would also suggest adding Abrams and Dynamo to your list. Step 2 is movement. This is my favorite part of Deadlock because moving around feels really kinetic and responsive. It's just really fun to zoom around the map. The primary movement skills are dashing by pressing shift, sliding by holding control, and double jumping by double tapping the spacebar. Most heroes typically start with 3 stamina bars, and dashing or double jumping costs 1 stamina bar each. You can also combo the movement abilities together, for example dash jumping or air dashing into a slide. Movement combos can get really in depth as you buy items that give you additional stamina points and unlock multi-jumps and dashes. You can also wall jump by jumping into a wall, holding the opposite direction and jumping again. Wall jump doesn't consume stamina, and you can wall jump into double jump to get onto some really tall buildings. Sliding is a bit more interesting because it doesn't cost stamina, and you can slide down stairs or anytime you have momentum, which means you can slide out of a dash to cover some good distance. You also have infinite ammo while you're sliding, so keep firing if you're sliding towards somebody. You primarily gain momentum by sprinting. Your base sprint speed starts at 0, but it can be increased by buying sprint boosting items. There's no dedicated sprint button in Deadlock. You just automatically start sprinting after you've been running for a couple seconds and you haven't fired a shot or been hit. Firing slows you down even slower than standard walk speed, so be mindful of holding left click if you're chasing somebody. The last movement step to cover is melee. Melee is bound to Q by default, and tapping it will punch, while holding it will perform a charged punch. You can defend charged punches by pressing F to parry, which will stun the attacker. Parry is super useful, especially against specific characters that like to melee a lot, like Shiv or Abrams. Charged punches are super strong, especially at the beginning of the game, and they scale with your weapon power all the way through to the end. Step 3 will cover soul economy, and this is honestly the most important part of the entire game. Souls are the primary currency in Deadlock, and collecting them allows you to unlock your skills and buy items. You'll get the most of your souls from killing troopers, typically called creeps in other MOBAs. Troopers are initially worth 75 souls apiece and come in waves of 4. When you get the last hit on a trooper, you'll receive half the souls up front, and a soul orb will pop out. The orb will randomly float either straight up or to the left or right, and shooting it or allowing it to pop will secure the other half of the souls. Your soul orbs are green, and the enemy soul orbs are orange. Orbs can be shot by anyone, so if you don't secure it, your opponent can shoot them to steal the souls. This is called denying. Securing and denying souls is the most fundamental skill in Deadlock, so make sure you practice it as much as you can in your games, as you can build up a huge lead over your opponent by denying their souls. Souls can also be secured with melee attacks. If you kill a trooper with a melee attack, the orb doesn't spawn and you just get the full soul amount. It becomes a bit of a game of cat and mouse between you and the opponent, fighting over souls, so positioning gets really important when you're in the laning phase. It's typically best to look for troopers that are low on health so you don't waste a bunch of ammo trying to kill them and then get stuck reloading when the orb pops out. You want to secure as many souls as you can while denying your opponent so that you can build up a big soul lead, which will allow you to unlock your abilities and buy items faster so you can get a lot of leverage over them. The last thing you need to know about troopers is that after 10 minutes, the souls will now be split evenly between you and any nearby allies. The value is increased to 104 and it's entirely moved into the orb. That makes each wave of troopers worth 416 potential souls, and securing and denying the orbs becomes much more important. The soul value from each trooper will continue to scale throughout the rest of the game. There are a couple other ways to farm souls besides just killing the troopers. There are camps spread around the map that you can clear, commonly referred to as the jungle. Jungle camp difficulty is represented by a little green arrow on your minimap. A single arrow represents the easiest camp, an arrow with a line under it means it's a little bit more difficult, and an arrow with 2 lines represents the most difficult camps. You won't want to hit the hardest camps until pretty late in the game. While you're moving between the jungle camps, you can also farm souls by destroying the breakable objects. There are boxes and vases that can be broken for extra souls, and gold statues that give permanent stat buffs that last until the end of the game. You can shoot, punch, or slide through them to bust them open. Make sure you're breaking anything you see while you run through the map. The last way to get souls is to break the vending machines. Some jungle camps will have vending machines, represented by a small square on the map that you can melee for additional souls. Attacking the vending machines will return a small amount of damage on each swing, but they're worth a ton of souls, so they're totally worth it. That brings us to step 4, items. This is a pretty broad topic and the most complex part of Deadlock. I'm going to cover the basics to get you started, but you'll probably spend a lot of time learning about the items and builds. There's a shop in your base that you can buy items by tapping the B key, and there's another shop next to your lane guardian. We'll talk about him a little bit more later. Items are split into 3 categories: weapon items that buff your gun, spirit items that buff your skills, and vitality items. Each category of items is further split into tiers. Tier 1 items cost 500 souls, Tier 2 costs 1250, Tier 3 costs 3000, and Tier 4 costs 6200. Items are also divided into 2 types, passive and active. The majority of items are passive and apply as soon as you buy them, while active items have effects that can be used on command. Active items are bound to keys Z, X, C, and V by default. I recommend sticking with just the passive items to start out, and then start familiarizing yourself with the active items. You can add them to your games one at a time until you feel comfortable filling all 4 of your active item slots. Selecting items is probably the most confusing part of Deadlock for new players, but Valve has a pretty good system put in place to fix this problem. When you're shopping, you'll see a browse button in the top right hand corner. Click it to see a list of all the public builds, and pick one of the top builds, then close the menu. You can open the menu again, and now you'll be able to buy all the items in that build. Practice using the public builds for a couple games while you get your feet underneath you. After you get a feel for your favorite characters and what items they want to use, then you can start experimenting with your own builds, which is really one of the most fun parts of the game. You can carry up to 16 total items at a time. The ratio is split into 4 weapon items, 4 vitality items, 4 spirit items, and 4 flex items. The flex slots get unlocked as you progress through the game, and you can use them to mix and match different item types. So now that we've covered all the major concepts, we can move on to step 5, the map and objectives. The Deadlock map is split into 4 color-coded lanes: pink, blue, green, and yellow. You can see which lane you're going to start in by taking a quick look at the color of your hero icon during the countdown. There are 2 solo lanes and 2 duo lanes. Make sure to check and see if you're going to have a partner or if you're going to be on your own. Each lane is connected to a zip line that you can ride by jumping into and holding the spacebar. You cannot jump into the zip line while you're fighting, and you'll fall off it if you get shot, so watch out. Once you're connected to the zip line, you can sprint by pressing F. This sprint has a massive cooldown, so don't waste it unless you really need to get somewhere fast for a big fight. The Deadlock map is super vertical, and spread around you'll find ropes that you can climb by holding space, and fans that you can run over that'll blow you up onto rooftops or across gaps. There are also opaque veils that obscure vision. The enemy can't see you through the veil, but they can still shoot you, so be careful. The map also has a network of tunnels that you can use to move between the lanes. Near the north and south side of the tunnel network, there are 2 secret shops that both teams can use to buy items. There are also teleport pads in the tunnels that you can use to teleport to the opposite side of the map. Your lane will have a guardian at the drop-off point. The guardian is like a giant trooper that does a lot of damage to the closest target, which means you'll want to make sure you have some troopers with you when you attack the opposing team's guardian. If your guardian is killed, the item shop next to it will close. Defend your guardian as long as you can, otherwise you'll have to go all the way back to your base or the secret tunnel shop to buy items. The next defense point are walkers. Walkers are basically just souped up guardians that do a lot more damage. Be careful about getting too close to them because they can stomp the ground for a major area of effect. Walkers are worth 700 souls and an ability point for everyone on your team, making them very high priority targets. If you finish the walker in your lane, you should rotate to another lane and help them take their walker next. After the walker, there are 2 guardians defending a small choke point in front of the enemy's base. When you break into their base, there will be a shrine on each side. The shrines don't have any defense, so if the enemy makes it to your shrines, you need to be there to defend them. As you complete the objectives, you'll be rewarded with additional ability points and flex slots. Everyone on your team will receive an ability point for each walker and shrine that are destroyed. Flex slots are unlocked by killing 2 walkers, killing all walkers, killing all of the lane guardians, and the last one is unlocked by destroying a shrine. Once the shrines are down, the enemy patron will spawn. The patron has 2 stages. During his first stage, he'll fly back and forth and he can shoot. After you bring him down, he'll transition into his final form and move into the pit, just under the enemy spawn point. He can regenerate quickly in this second phase, so you want to gun him down fast. Otherwise, he can regen back to full health if you get pushed off. Destroying the enemy patron is how you win the game. You have a mini-map in the bottom right corner where you can see all the lanes. You can see icons for all your allies, and enemy icons will only show on the mini-map if they're next to your troopers or teammates, otherwise they're hidden. Guardians and walkers are represented by solid and outlined diamonds that will shrink as they take damage. Jungle camps are shown by the arrows that we covered earlier, and shops are represented by green building icons. You can also see the teleport pads, which are shown as little squares with arrows on the opposing sides from each other. There are a couple other objectives besides clearing your lanes and taking down the patron. At the 10-minute mark, the soul urn will spawn. The urn is represented by a green lantern icon on the minimap, and it will slowly descend onto one side of the map. You can pick it up by standing over it for a couple seconds once it lands. If you pick it up, you'll no longer be able to shoot or use your skills, but you can still punch and use stamina. Run it to the green square on the opposite side of the map. If you can deliver the urn without dying, it's worth 3,500 souls spread across your team, plus an additional 25% souls and an ability point for the returner. The urn will respawn every 5 minutes, and the soul rewards will scale for the rest of the game. Also at the 10-minute mark, you'll hear the patron announce that the mid-boss is spawned. In the dead center of the map, there's a pit where you can kill a giant jungle camp called the mid-boss, and it usually takes your entire team to bring him down. He'll make a loud roar at 50% HP, so the enemy will know if you're fighting him. If you can bring him down, a crystal called the Rejuvenator will slowly drop onto his platform. Use a charge punch to break the Rejuvenator for a huge team buff that will cut your next respawn timer in half, buff your fire rate, and give all your creeps 50% more life for the next 3 minutes. Anytime you win a big team fight and the other team is on respawn, you should head for the mid-boss, as it helps quite a bit with pushing into the enemy team's base and killing their patron. Now that you know the basics, you should be able to jump into some public bot matches to get a feel for the gameplay. I also strongly recommend playing through the in-game tutorial. The tutorial will cover most of the concepts from this video in a playable sandbox where you can practice things like last hitting troopers, securing and denying souls, and buying items. Thanks for watching everyone, and please make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and you want to see more educational Deadlock content in the future.